Parentheses used for mathematics. They are used to clarify, they are used to multiply, and they are used to group. So first, let's start with clarifying. This example says 1 plus minus 1 equals. Now, this can be written better if we use parentheses, and we will. You can write this more clearly by writing it this way. 1 plus, open parentheses, negative 1 equals whatever it equals. This is because you're showing more clearly that you're not saying plus minus 1, you're trying to say plus a negative number. So we'll move on to the next example. Here we have 5 plus minus 2 equals. Oh, and by the way, this equals 0. Sorry. Alright, so 5 plus minus 2 equals what? Well, let's do the same thing we did last time. So we said 5 plus, but that minus sign right next to the plus is a little confusing. So let's separate it and give it its own little bubble so that it doesn't mess with our expression. And now we know that it's 5 plus negative 2, and we know that that is 3. So that is how you use parentheses to clarify an expression. So now let's move on to the next thing, which is multiplying. And in multiplying, we have this example. You may look at this and say 3 parentheses 5 equals what? Well, when it comes to using parentheses in mathematics, these parentheses often substitute what I like to call multiplication symbols, such as the little star that we know, or the X that represents multiplication. So it's the same thing. So you're basically saying 3 star 5 or 3x5, however you like to see multiplication. It's the same thing with parentheses. It's just 3 open parentheses 5 close parentheses. So we know that 3 times 5 equals 15. Alright, so let's move on. So say you saw this. You see open parentheses 5, close parentheses, open parentheses 4, close parentheses. Well, you know that parentheses just stand for multiplication signs. Therefore, you can multiply this as you would as a regular. So this is equivalent to this. So we know that this equals 20. And now this one is a bit harder, but we can do this. So we know because of the order of operations that PEMDAS says that the first thing we should worry about is whatever's in parentheses. So let's do that. So 10 plus 1, ooh. So 10 plus 1 equals 11. And then it says 9 plus 1, and that equals 10. So here we see two parentheses next to each other, 11 and 10. But we know that this is essentially the same thing as saying this or this. And so that is equal to 110. So that's multiplication. And now grouping. So grouping in a way is kind of just the way we decide to organize our math. So here, it's basically just telling you in this that you want to subtract 2 from 3 first, and then you want to add 3 to that total. So because we're doing, again, you always want to remember PEMDAS. So because we always do whatever is in the parentheses first, we know that 3 minus 2 is 1, plus 3 equals 4. You can also write it the other way around if it makes you feel more comfortable, but you're saying the same thing regardless of. So another example, we can say this. So because we know that parentheses always goes first, we're going to add 3 to 7. That's going to give us 10. And notice that there's an addition sign here. We want to keep that. And then we have 10 minus 9, which is equal to 1. It says equals what? Notice how the parentheses here, they're not next to each other. They're not adjacent to each other. They are split apart by an addition sign. This means we are not multiplying. We are adding them. So we know that 10 plus 1 equals 11. And so your answer for this will be 11. And that's all. So that is how we use parentheses.